Hi everyone, it's Joel and Fergus on the Stay Hungry podcast.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about consistency or die.
Ooh,
Fergus, how
very
you
good.
doing?
I'm good. Clearly way too enthusiastic to say hello. Almost cut you off.
Well, it's all good, all good. How was your weekend?
Really, well, I was about to say really good. It was very nice. Kaylee got her COVID vaccine at the weekend.
Okay.
So she works with kids who have got complex trauma, so all of their staff have been offered it. But she had it, which is great, really, really good. But she's like naturally scared of vaccination. Well, not vaccination, but like injections and things like that. And I was like, oh, don't worry, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. And then she had quite a horrible reaction to it in the end, on the day after, like fever and like shivers and everything. So I felt like a hypocrite or just an idiot. But no, it was good.
Better to only suffer for a couple of days.
Certainly, yeah. No, she knew that the whole time. It's been quite a while since people, well, anyone I know, like friends, myself, got vaccinated for anything. Because generally, well, I think I had one in school, so I kind of forgot what that experience is like.
Yeah, I'd not had any for a long time until before I went on honeymoon, and then I had to have loads.
Yeah, because it's not a live vaccine, so it's not like they're not injecting you with COVID or anything. It can be quite an intense experience if you get any of the symptoms, but
yeah,
it's
you
a
have
really
a bit of an immune reaction to it, exactly.
Yeah, but hers was done. I mean, it sounds intense, but then it was done within maybe 6 hours. Like, so it's not like if you were ill with something else, you just suffer for a bit, and then you're like, oh, I'm done now. So yeah, it was interesting, but no, it was good. What about you? What was your weekend like?
What was my weekend like? Like a standard lockdown weekend. Watched a lot of Netflix, did some cooking, walked the dog.
What are you watching? What are you watching on Netflix?
We're on season 7 of Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, wow, are you getting close to the end? There's quite a lot of that, isn't there?
Yeah, this is the last season now.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've seen it before, but my wife hasn't seen it. So
yeah. Oh no, nice. We watched White House Farm yesterday.
Oh, we've got that on our watch list. Any good?
It is really good. I don't know if I've seen a dramatization. The Fall was quite good actually. I think this is maybe better because it's quite short. So we watched it in one evening.
Okay, it's got a good cast. So.
It's got a really good cast, and the cinematography in it is outrageous. I was like, because it's been a while since I've watched like an English-made TV show because I don't have a TV license, so I only watch stuff on Netflix. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like next level. Like the shots in this are outrageous for just a normal TV show.
I think they've really upped their game. So you don't watch Line of Duty then?
No, I've been told it's good. I think maybe by you.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's well worth a watch. Again, it's like, hang on, cinematography on UK TV has upped its game.
Yeah, it's just like, it's lots of it, because it's really weird. Well, it's not really weird, but there's a lot of techniques you'd expect to see in really high-level movie making. Like, there's loads of barriers, and the framing is like outrageous. But then you're seeing it in England, with that kind of like, I don't know, procedural police show lighting and like look. So I'm used to that being low quality, and then you see all this like really high quality stuff, and it's really impressive. I don't know. I was the whole time probably annoying my wife, just talking about how good the level.
I noticed it for the first time with Luther. So that
show is outrageous.
Yeah, it was like watching a film each episode, and I thought they really and what's it called? Peaky Blinders is the same.
I think
really up their game.
Because I'm not exposed to too much of it. I think because that stuff's on the same level as like Hollywood productions and things like that, or like big American TV productions. But because we have less of that, and I see a way more American TV, and American TV is always coloured like really, really warm and
soapy.
And also their weather is hotter, and it probably does look like that. But then England's always got that kind of blue like tone, and it's like the kind of dreary weather and stuff, which I'm so like used to seeing that when I was walking and my mum was watching like Midsummer Murders or something like that on the TV rather than on a big production. But it's cool. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. So before we go too far down the geeky rabbit hole, we're be talking about consistency today and why that's really important for businesses marketing. And I guess a bugbear of mine is a lot of people, particularly small businesses, and I can explain why as well, and I understand why they do it, but they will try something a couple of times and then abandon it and then say it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And one, that's not enough of an effort. So you can't measure something by just doing it a couple of times and hoping it works. And two, consistency is a really important part of marketing. If you're not consistent in your message, if you're not consistent in your delivery, if you're not consistent in your tone of voice, and you keep chopping and changing, people won't relate to your brand. They won't remember your brand. They won't see, you won't be the first brand that comes into their mind when they're about to order a new widget or some new tea bags or some new eco-friendly drain cleaner, whatever it might be that they're about to order.
I think it's quite interesting that's like, you see that trend a lot with a lot of things that maybe take time to like build up, like a podcast, like Facebook advertising, like like any kind of content. There's a lot of stuff in marketing that has a compound effect over time. But like you said, you often see people who will just try it 3 times, didn't work, haven't really given it the scope to build up that compound effect, and they might have even been executing it quite well, which is often the shame.
Yeah, and you also get small business owners who say things like, "Oh, I keep seeing my adverts," like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one in itself.
Yeah.
Maybe they assume that they're seeing it, so either, I guess there's 2 avenues. One, they think I'm seeing it, so therefore somebody else isn't seeing it because I've taken that slot, like I've taken that viewing slot, or even worse, and I think maybe more frequently, people are like, I'm this experience that I'm getting is what my audience is getting, and therefore I'm annoying my audience. But that's not ever the case.
Yeah, that's not true, because you're so close to your brand that you're seeing it all the time.
Yeah, and there's loads of things built into Facebook and other platforms where they show you your ad more. One, because they want you to check it, or like it to be visible to you so you know that it's working. And 2, they want to sell you more, so they want you to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an odd one. And that's why it's important to pay attention to like frequencies and the actual data that is telling you how much someone is seeing it, which is all stuff, I mean, we do loads of. But there's a science to frequency of how many times someone needs to see your ad before, 1, they'll recognize it, and then 2, even engage with it or click through. It's not often the first time they see an ad.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had a few people sort of chuck frequency back at me. And then I said, well, over what time period? And they say, 3 years. And I was like, well, that's not...
Yeah,
that's not a good metric. If someone's seen something 15 times over 3 years, they've only seen it 5 times a year. That's not a lot.
Yeah, and imagine trying to ask someone to recall something like that. Have you ever had the Facebook ask you or do a recall survey where they ask you if you've seen these?
Yeah, and literally 4 out of 5 of the questions I can't recall.
I don't think I've ever recalled one. I've always had them, and I was like, I know because Facebook is showing this to me that I have seen these, or some of these, but I can't recall any of them. I pay quite a lot of attention to ads. I often take screenshots of good ads or bad ones. So you'd think I'd notice, but
so
you encounter a lot of ads in your life.
Let's pretend I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean ad recall? What's that?
Ad recall is essentially your ability. Hang on, let me phrase it better. You've got take one person out of your audience who's inside your target audience, and basically their ability to recall what they've seen. There's actually brand recall, ad recall, and I guess you could have like message recall as well. But essentially, brand recall would be to be able to recognize or remember your brand after seeing one of your adverts or any of your marketing. Ad recall is to be able to remember the specific advert they've been given, like so that the call to action, maybe the imagery, and anything like that. And basically, these metrics tell us, I mean, frequency buys into that. So if they've been shown the advert 3 times, and then by the 3rd time now they remember your brand name and the message, that's really good. But sometimes, depending on the campaign and the brand, these things kind of like high frequencies end up working better for certain brands and companies, and then some companies have really low frequencies needed to have brand recall because maybe they have a really, really punchy brand message or brand look or anything like that.
Controversial one. There is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Also, for ad recall, offers have a way higher ad recall because people pay more attention to ads that are trying to give them like an offer or something. So that's something we talk about that quite a lot when planning strategies. Is like offers feed into that a lot early days to try and get that initial recall.
Yep.
Because often once you've got that recall for the brand, that doesn't go away too quickly. It sometimes can be hard or difficult, or some businesses struggle to kind of capture that in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this sort of consistency thing, it's not just about ad recall, it's about brand recall.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone's on your mailing list and you're only emailing them once a month, guess what? They're probably not going to engage with your brand. Or if somebody's already a client and your account manager only speaks to them once a year, their brand loyalty is probably not going to be very high.
Yeah, and I think interestingly enough as well, when you talk about consistency with frequency, if you let's say on a brand level, so maybe we've seen it a few times with businesses that maybe don't have that kind of when we talk to people about their brands, you need to kind of lock in like your appearance, like your language, your logos, your visuals, your colors, that kind of stuff. Because imagine the scenario where you hit the same person in your audience 5 times. And essentially, you've got 5 separate adverts that have hit this member of your audience. If each one isn't consistent and doesn't look like the same company's talking it on a brand level, so maybe you've used different language or imagery or anything like that, that recall is going to be like it's not kind of feeding into the same thing. So they're going to be building up 2 images of your company, which just slows you right down.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
But yeah, exactly. So like consistency is incredibly important when you're thinking about these strategies and presenting yourself towards your audience.
So my background, I've got a degree in graphic design for my sins, and something that irritates me to this day is, and I see big brands do this, not just small businesses, is they change their font set. They tweak their colours, they change their imagery way too often, and I lose touch with what it is that I'm looking at. Sometimes I watch an advert on TV, and it's only at the very end when it shows me the logo that I knew what it was for. I'm weird when it comes to adverts. Usually I can see a font or the way the advert's lit and quite quickly identify the brand, because that's how I spend my free time.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. So I think you're right for everybody. I mean, obviously you can say why it's recognizable for whatever reason, but I think everybody notices if something's off about a product. Like I've seen it before, where a company's either using an off font or like odd imagery or something like that with a brand that I'm very familiar with, and it is jarring, and you might not notice why it's jarring, but it is. Yeah,
and I guess the brands that are really good at not doing this, I should say, the Nike, McDonald's, they would never ever do that. You can look at a tagline on a Nike t-shirt where it doesn't say Nike or have the swoosh and know it's a Nike t-shirt.
Yeah, 100%. There's loads of really good examples of companies that are good with it, and it's all they apply is like these are we've talked about brand guidelines before, but like they're just strict about how they present themselves, and it's trained and it's taught, and anyone who is putting that out has a firm understanding of what the brand actually is, because it's really important, because then you talk about those brands and we just like everybody right now, you've just said Nike has a really solid idea of what that branding is.
Yeah, exactly. And then to pick on a big company that I think do it badly, and don't get me wrong, I love this company, but I think KFC seem to be all over the the place with their advertising. So last year they had two campaigns running, as I remember. One was What the Cluck, and it used this like animated kind of contemporary pop art style campaign where this chicken quite regularly said "What the Cluck" about what the fantastic deal was on the screen. But at the same time, they had a campaign about imitation not being as good as the real thing, and it was the Colonel driving down what looked like an American kind of neon strip in like a classic car, and he was going past all the different chicken shops on that strip with like a smug look on his face, and that was all lit like kind of Grand Theft Auto style neon and moody, just miles apart, absolutely miles apart. And I don't know whether it was them saying, well, we've got more than one audience, so we need to speak in different tones, or whether they were showing them at different times of day. But to drop another fast food, McDonald's would never do that. They would never have two such significantly different campaigns running at the same time.
No, and that is a really key difference between those two brands, because I mean, as the second McDonald's advert starts, you 100% know, and they do out there ones that they do adverts that are kind of maybe not high concept, but they don't necessarily throw it in your face from the get go what they're selling, but the cinematography style, the lighting, the kind of maybe the atmosphere they kind of build up in their adverts, the story. Yeah, it's all on brand, and you can tell. I think I can tell immediately, and that's super valuable. I think KFC is an odd one. Maybe their brand is that they're out there, and it's just all left field, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember really different ads from KFC. So that What the Cluck one has got lots of kind of young people in it. And it's clearly aimed at kind of people in their late teens and early 20s. And then I remember one a few years ago where the mum comes home with a big bucket of chicken and they all get round the table, and clearly aimed at families. Then this Colonel one is kind of super cool, super niche, and not quite sure who it's aimed at, but I liked it because it was cool. But doesn't really showcase the product, and it's just kind of all over the place, where most of the McDonald's advertising that you see nowadays is kind of family orientated. It's about kind of how convenient and how consistent the quality of a
I think McDonald's is like they've worked up the message throughout all of the kind of their series of doing them. It's all about, I think it's just like about the welcoming environment. It's like everyone's welcome and it's nice, and like that's what they're going for. It's just like, everyone can just come here anytime. You know exactly what you're getting. It's a nice, safe environment where you get the food you recognize, and that's basically what it's saying. KFC, I mean, I honestly don't understand it. The last one you said, the cool one, I don't know what that does for them, to be honest. It's just such a string. I mean, we're talking about it, so I guess that's that. But
I understand in the sense that literally every high street now has about 10 chicken shops. Yeah. So I get what they're saying. It's like, the original and the best or whatever. And I also know from work we do that there are kind of gourmet chicken shops coming into the picture now.
Right, yeah.
So this is their retaliation. I get that. But just because they want to retaliate, does that do anything beneficial with their audience? Are their audience coming at that from the same thought point as them? And I'd say probably not.
Or at least not enough of them.
Like, the reason you would go to a different chicken shop instead of KFC is one, it might be better, or in your opinion better. Two, it might be more convenient, so it's accessible. They're available to you for delivery, or they're right on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Or three, cost. It could be a lot less, cost a lot less. So KFC kind of going head to head with all of that, when in my view they should be going head to head with Burger King, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, is weird. It's weird. You would never see McDonald's do an advert about taking on the local kebab houses.
yeah, exactly. Or even more extremely, like taking on like the gourmet burger, like any of the big kind of grill providers, like where it's more expensive, more of an experience. It's more about the burger.
Yeah, because they're not playing in that marketplace.
Yeah, and they just know that.
Worried. Yeah,
and also their audience knows that too. Literally nobody is going, let's go on a nice experience. Where are we gonna go? Let's go to Beefy Boys, or let's just go to McDonald's. That is a conversation that has never happened.
Yeah, it's an entirely different purchasing decision.
Yeah.
One is usually going to be convenience and fast food, literally fast food.
Exactly.
And the closest you could probably get is Five Guys.
Yeah.
So that's like a premium, or like Shake Shack, premium burger offering in a fast food environment. But I would never see the day where McDonald's would pitch themselves against another company like that. I mean, it could happen, but their brand is, well, we're McDonald's. We're not worried about them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they're also now benefiting from decades of having consistent branding. So it's almost like they can be super. I don't even know like minimal with how they advertise themselves, because everybody in this country has an association with their brand because they've done it so well for so long.
And if somebody's like running like a street food restaurant or like a burger shack out of a truck or something, they might be able to compete on price with McDonald's and offer what's technically a better product because they haven't got the overhead McDonald's have got. So why would you go head to head with that person anyway? Yeah, and you see this like in SME businesses. You see SMEs who maybe have got a brilliant product or service, so they think they're going to topple Microsoft, or they think they're going to topple Amazon. And we've met businesses that sell something. I mean, let's say they sell hairdryers. They don't. We've not worked with a business that sells hairdryers, and for whatever reason, they think everyone's going to come to their website and buy their hairdryers rather than listing it on Amazon, where most people would look, or getting a distribution deal with Currys or Boots. And we have to say to them, well, Currys, Boots, Amazon have got absolutely gigantic marketing budgets, and you're trying to go head to head with them. What are you doing? Like, sell the product on the platforms that people are used to buying from, and include something in the product that then drives them to your platform in the future, so you can pick up a greater margin on all the accessories, or on signing people up to your subscription, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to set up an underground hairdryer movement and expecting it to have the same impact as like a major distributing marketing campaign.
Yeah, it's like I guess when Dyson invented their vacuum cleaner, which is pre-Amazon, I imagine. I don't know. Is it? Yeah, probably. They didn't immediately just build Dyson shops everywhere.
No, and exactly. It took years, didn't it, to build up? And even now, like
where people expected to buy a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, and they also just locked in on one part of the market. They just like, we're going to make extremely good cordless vacuum cleaners. They're very expensive.
By day, Fergus.
Oh right, okay. Well, maybe I'm not up to date on my Dyson history.
Back in the day, all vacuum cleaners didn't have cyclone technology, which was a Dyson invention, and they also had bags in. So when the bag got full, you had to empty it, or it exploded, and all your vacuuming efforts were null and void.
Wow, that's a history lesson.
Yeah,
I have encountered old school Hoovers and things in my day, but generally, since I've been an adult, they've all been kind of. I've only ever had Dysons because they just looked more convenient. They marketed well to me.
Yeah.
Especially as a pet owner, they nailed that.
So there's a brand that's very, very consistent with their marketing. Anyway, from an SME perspective, you've got to think about who you're talking to, where are they, how many of them can you talk to and afford to talk to without wasting your money? Because let's say you're trying to talk to, I don't know, every motorbike rider in the world, that's going to cost you a lot of money. If you try and talk to every motorbike rider in Europe, it's not going to cost you as much as every motorbike rider in the world, but it's still going to cost you a lot. If you try and talk to every motorbike rider in the UK, you're probably getting more realistic. But then maybe you need to have a look and think, well, what type of motorbike rider buys my seat cover? Let's say seat cover. And it turns out it's people who ride cruiser motorbikes, right? So I'm going to aim my campaign consistently at people that have cruiser motorcycles in the UK. And therefore, you're not going up against Harley Davidson or Kawasaki or whoever it might be that might have a global marketing campaign. You're going after specifics within your affordable region, and then you're going to consistently market to them with the same tone, the same sort of imagery, the same sort of language, and eventually create a connection with them, whether they realise you're doing it or not.
Yeah, and I guess it's not necessarily consistency, but the more defined your audience is, the easier it is to talk to them because you've got a better idea of who you're talking to. The broader it is, the harder it is to talk to them because they don't have one like defined personality.
Yeah, exactly that. So if you can define your audience, it makes that's the thing with KFC. I know we keep coming back to this. I don't know who their audience is, and I work in marketing.
Yeah. Do you ever stop to think that maybe they don't? And maybe
that's what I'm getting at, but that's not right. That's not right.
Maybe they're trying to find it.
There's some mega intelligent marketers working for KFC that surely have this dialed down in a brand guide or a customer avatar case study or whatever it might be, you know.
Yeah, but it's just. Yeah, maybe their strategy is just so out there that you can't lock it down from an outward perspective. You just kind of got to sit down and then just watch in awe as it seems to be random as hell.
Yeah,
that's always my reaction to it, which I like when we're talking about consistency is like the opposite of what we're trying to we're preaching, because every time I see it, I'm just like, I have no idea what we're gonna get. I don't know what it's going to try and sell me. I don't know who the audience is, and I don't know what they're going to say. It could be anything.
So if you were starting a company tomorrow, let's pick on something you'll know about. If you were starting a artisan whiskey company tomorrow, what would be your starting point from a marketing perspective? No, I don't care about how you're making this stuff.
I would pick a very, very niche part of whiskey. So maybe a region or maybe a type or something like that. So maybe a specific part of the UK, find a one distributor. So I've got one really good selling point, and then I would find the audience that also likes that and just obviously talk to them. But probably, I don't know, that's hard, Joel. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot about whiskey. I guess pick the one avenue where I expect them to be. So with whiskey and those kinds of drinks, I actually think that Facebook's a really good platform for advertising on. I fall subject to buying from Facebook ads for whiskeys and things like that. So I picked that. Have a good budget behind quite a nice few adverts that kind of develop the story. So maybe you start off with like a region interest kind of thing to build hype for it, maybe educate people about what the whiskey that I'm selling is, and then further on maybe further that story by saying that, okay, well, now we know about what the whiskey is, so maybe come over to our website, have a look, learn a bit more, maybe order something, and then the final campaign that's like a conversion campaign, trying to sell, actually do a hard, not a hard sell, but more of a hard sell, bring them across and kind of convert that way. And then I guess with the consistency side of it, to bring it back to the podcast, I probably ensure that I'm talking about the same things throughout, the benefit, like in the first advert, lock in the benefits and make sure that that's visible through the entire campaign. Make sure that in each of those adverts I'm talking to the same audience, like with my voice and the language that I'm using, and also the imagery. Probably, if I was starting tomorrow, I have to do some testing to lock that in. Maybe do some split testing, see what images work with that audience, and then once I know that, I can kind of be consistent with that too. And I think I'd probably also start with an offer, because that would be a hard way. It would be hard to start from scratch. So you'd want something to kind of bring people in. So maybe if you order 2 bottles in this first month period when we're at launch, have X amount % off.
Yeah, sure. So I was a bit mean there, really. I picked a product in a hyper competitive marketplace.
Should have said banjos. Could have done banjos.
Yeah, but no one knows about banjos except you, Fergus.
I could have flagged my way through it.
So the issue with whiskey, and there will be loads of people starting businesses in competitive environments, particularly at the moment. So the issue with whiskey is there are loads of brands out there, and there will be loads of brands that feel like they've probably done it the way you want to do it already. Yeah. So with whiskey, there will be one aimed at bikers, like we just talked about. There will be whiskies aimed at seasoned whiskey drinkers. There'll be whiskies aimed at casual whiskey drinkers. There'll be whiskies aimed at people that only drink single malt scotch. There'll be whiskies aimed at people that only drink Irish whiskey. Conor McGregor's got a whiskey for people probably interested in MMA. There's literally, there's just loads. Yeah. So it's about kind of looking at what your product is. So where's it from, like you said? What that kind of visually incurs. So what's the feeling around that? What does it look like? What's the scenery? Where's the spring water come from that you use in the production? Where are you getting your rye from, or whatever's in the whiskey? And building up that profile at the same time as, right, who's going to buy this? Because this is the price point I've got to come in at to make money. That affects who can buy it, because if it's a 50 quid bottle of whiskey, that's very different to a 20 quid bottle of whiskey. And if it's a 20 quid bottle of whiskey, you're putting yourself in amongst a huge marketplace that's going to be able to compete with.
People who buy £20 bottles of whiskey just generally buy them from the supermarket.
Yeah, exactly that. So then you get to this point where you've identified who your customer is, you know what this all looks like, and you have to consistently deliver that message to the right people. Not try and go head to head with Bell's whiskey or Jack Daniels or
God,
I don't know,
Woodford Reserve or a Frigg,
James's Wild Turkey, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And the thing that most small businesses, particularly when they're starting out, the error they make is they probably start an ad campaign there, talk about the benefits of whiskey, which is ridiculous because any brand can do that, and aim it at people that like whiskey.
Yeah.
And
it's way too broad. Yeah.
Way too broad, and even if you're being ultra consistent, it won't look like it because people are only going to see that advert once. It's not going to hit them enough times.
Yeah. Well, yes, when you were talking about bike seats and things like that, you would really need to, if you've got a big pool of people who could potentially drink it and enjoy it, you need to lock down on the people who can afford it, would like it, are likely to buy it, and it speaks to them, and all of those things kind of feed into it.
Yeah, so then you've got to think about, right, what does my packaging look like? What does my labelling look like? Does that marry up with the website? Does the website marry up with the social media presence? Does the social media presence marry up with any printed advertising I'm doing? Does the printed advertising marry up with any digital advertising I'm doing? Does that marry up with any PR I'm doing in Whiskey Weekly or whatever the
big one for those kinds of things, as well as follow-up, because you could absolutely have you definitely have repeat customers. So what's your follow-up as well? That needs to be consistent, because it's not just about the one bottle purchase.
Yeah, and if you buy a bottle and then anything you receive after that purchase sounds like a completely different company, guess what? You're not going to buy another bottle.
Yeah, and you have to be sure that things like delivery time, actually making sure orders are fulfilled, the stuff that comes with the bottle, so maybe a bit of information, make it an experience. That stuff needs to be the same as your marketing, the same voice, and all that kind of stuff. So it feels like one nice.
Yeah, and almost all your contingencies as well. So what happens if the delivery company smashes the bottle? What happens if the seal breaks on the bottle? What do we do in that scenario that consistently makes us sound like we sounded when the customer was excited to receive the product?
Yeah, a weirdly big part of it actually is your how your approach to customer service ties into consistency too. If you've got like a really friendly, like talkative voice throughout your marketing, and you're engaging with people, but then when they've got a problem, you're not helping them in the same way. You're not doing that. You're not responding quickly. Offering really good solutions, maybe just making sure that they feel looked after. That's a huge part of a brand.
Yeah, massive. And the fastest way to smash your consistency to pieces is one person in your team is in a bit of a mood one day, and they answer a customer service call, and then that customer goes away and leaves you a bad review, and it spirals.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to have standard operating procedures, all these things in place that are easy to do, but obviously time consuming. But then suddenly you've got a whiskey brand that's very consistently in front of people, talking to them in their tone of voice, and that's where you can start to get momentum. Where I mean, we've seen loads of brands like this, from people launching trainer brands to launching chocolate bars, whatever it might be, where just because their product is good, they don't do the rest of the legwork.
Yeah. Oh, it's like you said, it's very common, and even people who don't work with, I see it all the time. People who just kind of like, this is and they're not wrong, but the products are often very good. People throw their heart and soul into lots of parts of their businesses, but like if you overlook how you communicate that with your audience, which is your marketing, how you're educating people about why it's good in the first place, then it's just missed, because you might know it, but how do they know? There's loads of brands marketing to them every day.
Yeah, and that's something that annoys me as well. Is there's so many brands out there that just try and tell you why they're good.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. That's a real bugbear of mine.
Just a Facebook ad with bullet points.
Tell me how you're going to change my life.
Yeah. It's an easy pitfall to fall into, because if you do have a really cool brand or something like that, you just want to be like, this is cool, this is why it's cool, and then that's it. but people you look at traditional media, look at really good Facebook advertising. It's all about lifestyle and what this will do for you on a broader sense of the word, rather than this will make your feet like for shoes, this will make your feet not wet and comfortable. It's like, yeah, cool. Most shoes do that. That's kind of my minimum expectation for shoes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Footwear brands are really good at it. They'll do the whole buy these boots and you'll be able to climb Everest, or buy these trainers and you'll be able to run 100 meters as fast as Usain Bolt.
Yeah, or the hyper lifestyle ones where it's like, wear these trainers, also you'll have a really nice car and nice friends and family, and it's just like the lifestyle around you. He's like, he's wearing these really fancy shoes and he's driving a Tesla and it's sunny.
There's one at the moment for at the latest Nissan car, and it's got Alexa built in, I think.
Oh right, yeah.
And he starts the car from his phone basically, and then at that point it looks like he lives in a relatively normal house, but then it pans out that he's got a lift down into his basement and the car's started ready for him. The garage doors opened automatically, and
does that all stuff come with the car? Does it? Is that built in?
Well, there you go. Yeah, but they're painting the picture, aren't they? Of like
Tony Stark
future today.
Yeah. I mean, one, it feeds into the picture, sure, but it has that kind of subconscious, I don't know, messaging that's built into it. I've been trying to buy shoes from this one brand purely because I saw an advert and it had like, I can't get them because they're not available in the UK, which is devastating. But they have, I think they were talking about like their waterproofing, and they've got that whole outdoor lifestyle kind of thing, and it's like useful for every situation. So you can sit at home and they're comfortable, but also you can go out and run up a hill and you still have dry feet, and they really nailed in that kind of lifestyling. But yeah, I wouldn't just go, and if they just told me these are 100% waterproof and also comfy, I was like, okay, cool. Nice one.
Yeah, well, I mean, a hyper exaggerated example of that. I have pretty awkward feet. Like my feet are wide, and so only certain shoes fit me. If I find a pair of shoes that fit me and the customer service is good and I like the branding and I like how they look, I buy 2 pairs.
Yeah. There's lots.
I've got 1 pair in my wardrobe ready for when the first pair wears out.
I like it. I do that with jeans, to be fair.
because I find it so difficult to find a pair in the first place that if I really like a pair and it ticks all the boxes, the consistency is there from the messaging through to the delivery. I'll buy 2 pairs so that I'm saving myself that issue in 6 months' time or whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's part of that fear that the company or the provider will not be there in that after that 6 month or
so. Yeah, particularly with footwear, for whatever reason, there's like changing trends around foot shape, product type. So where I've worn skate shoes since I was 12 years old, and
nice.
I'm a lot older than that now. And I don't really care, like everyone's wearing Vans again now, and it looks like I'm copying all the kids. I'm not. I've been wearing Vans the whole time, so they can all sod off. But
are Vans in now? Is that a thing? I'm in a very similar boat. I've worn Vans since I realised that Converses weren't very comfortable.
Yeah, so Vans and Converse are in again, and I mean this is the 3rd time they've come round in my life, so it's frustrating when everyone starts copying me again. But but my point being that because shoe shapes and shoe trends can change so quickly and so often, it might be that when my first pair wears out, you can't buy a pair like that anymore.
Yeah.
And because my feet are so awkward, I can't really afford to take that risk, because if I get a hole in my shoe, it might take me a month to find a pair that fit comfortably again.
That does sound very stressful.
It's a very exaggerated, extreme example, but that level of consistency is what protects me.
Yeah, absolutely. But what you're saying is that you need a shoe company that will be able to provide you that, and you have the trust that you don't need to buy 2 pairs of shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Ridiculous. So
I have the exact same thing with jeans, because jeans is really similar. The trends and the fashions change so frequently, like on a yearly basis. You can't go you can't go to the place where you bought jeans last year and assume you'll get the same pair of jeans, which really bugs me, because I basically don't change my appearance every year because I'm very stuck in I'm not that.
Well, I guess you and I are similar in that sense. We're both influenced by things far outside UK fashion culture.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a different demographics, because there are people who want to be wearing the new thing. But I think a lot of brands go after those people. But there's a huge audience of people who just want the thing they got 10 years ago and would wish that all this fashion would go away.
Yeah, I guess people that wear like Levi 501s, which have been the same since day dot, must love that.
Yes, and so that's an example of people of a brand that know that their audience is not going after the trend. They want consistent and reliable.
Yeah. I mean, when skinny jeans became a thing, and then normal jeans became a lot skinnier because of skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell was going on there, but I wasn't. I don't want jeans that I have to peel off.
Okay, that might be maybe too skinny. I know what you mean. Now we have all the different flavors of skinny jeans now, so there's more flavors of skinny jeans than there are other jeans available on the market.
Yeah, well, I mean, I come from the teenage years of baggy jeans, and now I look back at that and think that's insane. I was wearing enough material for 3 pairs of jeans. But
I mean, I don't mind that, but my gripe with that stuff is skinny jeans solved a problem. Skinny jeans solved the problem of having wet ankles. Because if you...
Is that true? Is that true?
It might.
There's a lot of people who wear skinny jeans wear them cut off above the ankle.
Yeah, that's the new thing. I've been talking to my wife about how I hate that, but I think that's just because I'm getting older. But for me, skinny jeans, because I absolutely detested walking around as a kid when I was skateboarding or whatever, and like stepping in a puddle, and that would then ruin my next 3 hours while I wait for that denim to dry. Whereas that hasn't happened to me since I started wearing skinny jeans. So
yeah, no, I get that. I get that. So you wear skinny jeans now?
Oh, 100%. Well, I don't know if you'd call them skinny. I think they're like the least skinny available option for skinny jeans, because I have made the mistake of like going too like tight for whatever reason.
I mean, it comes as no surprise to the listeners. I don't know all the names of the different fits of jeans. I know boot cut and flares.
Yeah.
Wearing flares. So
I find it funny that like when you walk into like Next, or that's where I shop for jeans, but they don't cater to the person who doesn't care and doesn't know what types of jeans there are. So I spend like 30 minutes being like, is this what I want? I don't know. I have to talk to an adult who knows about jeans. Come and help me. Like there's no like simple pathway for it in these places.
Yeah, maybe I need to be more passionate about that to understand. Or maybe they need to advertise with consistency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you need to find the brand that is looking for you. Because I feel like both of us are probably just letting ourselves down by shopping in the wrong place.
Yeah, I suspect Levi's would probably tick a lot of boxes for me.
Yeah. But then you have to pay a premium for that, I suppose, don't you see?
Yeah, but then I guess if they fit properly, they probably last longer. And yeah, was it buy cheap, pay twice? I don't know. I heard that. They thought it sounded clever.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a pretty good rule to live by, to be honest. You have to question why something is half the price of its competitor.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the takeaway from today's pod, Fergus? How does the smart business owner keep their business consistent? What do they need to get in place?
Okay. I think what we've said is basically lock in what your brand is, who you're speaking to early days. So figure out what you look like, the language you use, the audience you're talking to, and then once you've got that, make sure that anytime you're putting something out, doing a Facebook advert, doing a video, doing an offer, building your website, writing for anything, that is feeding into what you've defined as your audience and your voice, and then that way you will have that idea of consistency throughout. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, locking in your brand is about coming up with a template for the whole communications piece, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like, how it interacts, and then consistently stick with that. If you know you've gone fundamentally wrong, people are on the phone in tears, maybe tweak it. If not, stick with it. Stick to your guns. If you know you're doing it right and you know you're speaking to the right people, stick with it, because you can't be consistent for a week. That doesn't count. Yeah,
I think a good takeaway on that point as well is like, don't just assume that because you get a negative reaction to that branding, that the branding's wrong. It might be that you're targeting wrong and the wrong person has seen that branding.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And your target audience is part of your consistency.
Yeah.
If you've come up with a consistent brand without thinking about your target audience first, you've gone all kinds of wrong, but that's a whole different podcast. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, it feeds into a lot of avenues, so we've had to steer ourselves back onto it a few times because it's such a core integral part of your marketing that it hits all of these different touch points in it. So you have to see.
Yeah, exactly that. So I guess for the audience, if you're struggling with brand consistency, you don't know what brand consistency is, which I hope isn't the case after listening to this. You're not getting your message out to enough people, or you're not seeing enough recall from your audience, hop on our website, codebreak.co.uk. You can book a free discovery call with myself or Andy on there. We'd love to chat to you. And Fergus, I really enjoyed this one. Cheers.
Nice one. All right, see you later, guys.
Take care. Bye now.